The screaming started before anyone understood what was happening. Somebody call 911. She's turning blue. The shout tore through the boardroom on the 48th floor of Ashcroft Global Holdings, overlooking downtown Chicago. The city skyline glittered behind the glass like an indifferent witness, while panic erupted inside the executive conference room. A moment earlier, Cassandra Ashcroft, one of the richest women in Illinois and the newly reinstated CEO, had been standing at the head of a 12-foot mahogany table, flawlessly presenting quarterly numbers to her board. Her silk blouse caught the morning sun. Her voice, sharp, confident, unmistakably powerful, filled the room. Then, in a single breath, everything broke. Her sentence stuttered mid-word. Her hand flew to her chest. Her pupils contracted. Her breath stopped. Her body seized once, twice, and collapsed onto the polished floor. The room froze. 7 board members, suits worth more than most people's monthly rent, stared at her with stunned faces and expensive fear. Someone whispered, "Is she joking?" Another muttered, "She's fainted, someone get security." But no one moved. Not one of them bent down. Not one reached out. Not one of them remembered what CPR even looked like. Then the door at the back of the room burst open. A janitor stepped in, pushing a yellow mop bucket that squeaked loudly against the marble. His name badge read Marcus Reed. He was 35, worn around the edges, with tired eyes that held years of lost sleep and a kind of quiet pain. A single dad from Southside Chicago, a man who'd worked 3 part-time jobs just to hold on to an apartment barely big enough for him and his daughter. He wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to enter this room. He wasn't supposed to walk anywhere near this floor. But he saw Cassandra on the ground. An instinct took over. Marcus dropped the mop handle. It clattered against the floor and ran forward. "What the hell are you doing here?" the CFO barked. "You don't belong in this room," another snapped. Marcus ignored every voice. He pushed past a wall of designer cologne and cold stares. He dropped to his knees beside Cassandra. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" No response. No chest movement. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. No pulse. That's when his training hit him like a reflex from deep memory. A free CPR course he'd taken 6 years ago at a community clinic, only because they were giving out free pizza and grocery vouchers. He had never imagined that knowledge would place him here, kneeling on the polished floor of a billionaire's boardroom while her life drained away under his hands. Marcus tilted her head back, pinched her nose, leaned down, and breathed into her lungs. "Is he kissing her?" One executive shrieked. "That's disgusting. Get him off her. For God's sake, security." A sharp blow cracked across Marcus's back. Someone hit him. Hard. Maybe an umbrella. Maybe a security baton. He groaned but didn't stop. He had felt pain before. This wasn't new. He breathed again, then interlocked his hands, pressed into her chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. His voice trembled but didn't break. Another strike hit his shoulder. "Stop touching her, you filthy." But he kept counting. 5, 6, 7, 8. His arms burned. His back screamed. But he refused to stop. "Don't die," he whispered through clenched teeth. "Please don't die, not like this." Someone grabbed his shirt and yanked him backward. Marcus ripped free and dove back toward her. He breathed, pressed, counted, again and again, until Cassandra's chest jerked. She coughed, one violent choking gasp. Her eyelids fluttered. Air rushed into her lungs like a drowning woman dragged from the bottom of Lake Michigan. She was breathing. Marcus collapsed backward, chest heaving. The executives swarmed her now, crying her name, tripping over each other, falling into panic they didn't have moments earlier when she needed them most. Paramedics stormed into the room. One kneeled beside Cassandra, quickly assessing her vitals. "Who started CPR?" "I did," Marcus managed to say, voice shredded. But before the paramedic could say another word, a tall, silver-haired man stepped forward. The CFO, Richard Halston, face twisted in disgust. "You put your mouth on her?" His tone made Marcus feel like he'd contaminated her. "She wasn't breathing," Marcus said. "We'll review the security footage. Leave the building immediately. Do not return. But get out." Marcus's throat closed. His back throbbed. His uniform smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and sweat. No one said thank you. No one acknowledged he saved her life. They just watched him stand there like an intruder. He bent down, grabbed his mop bucket with shaking hands, and walked out, each step heavier than the last. He didn't know that behind those glass doors, something had already begun unraveling, something that would flip his entire life upside down. By the time Marcus reached the lobby, paramedics were wheeling Cassandra out on a stretcher. Someone whispered, "She's lucky." She was gone for at least 2 or 3 minutes. Another said, "Who saved her?" No one answered. Marcus stepped outside into the Chicago cold. The wind stung his cheeks, turning them red. His hands trembled as he fumbled with his bus pass. A deep ache spread through his chest. Pain, humiliation, fear. His daughter, Lena, was waiting for him tonight. He couldn't let her see him break. The bus ride was numb. City lights blurred into streaks through the windows. He sat hunched over, backpack between his feet, heart pounding unevenly. When he finally got home, a cramped third-floor apartment in South Side, Lena ran to the door barefoot, her curly hair bouncing. "Daddy, you're late. Are you okay?" Marcus forced a smile. "I'm all right, baby. Just a tough day." Lena hugged him tightly. Her warmth settled the storm inside his chest. For a moment, dinner was leftover pasta, reheated in the microwave. Lena chatted about school. Marcus tried to listen, but his mind was stuck in that boardroom, stuck on Cassandra's lifeless body, stuck on the blows to his back, stuck on the hatred in their voices. When Lena fell asleep, Marcus sat on the edge of their thin mattress, staring at the peeling paint on the walls. His fingers traced a bruise forming across his shoulder, a deep, throbbing reminder. He had saved a woman's life, a billionaire's life, and yet the world saw him as a problem, a danger, a violation, invisible, replaceable, disposable. He didn't know that upstairs, on the 60th floor northwest of Memorial Hospital, Cassandra Ashcroft jolted awake gasping, clutching her chest. Dreams flooded her mind, a voice, raspy, urgent, commanding her back to life. "Come on, breathe, come back." She didn't know his name. She didn't know why no one told her who saved her. She didn't know that her board had already erased him, but she was about to find out. And when she did, Marcus Reed's life would never be the same. The next morning, Marcus stood in front of the gleaming glass tower of Ashcroft Global Holdings, his gray uniform zipped up to his throat against the cold. The sun hadn't fully climbed over the Chicago skyline yet. A pale winter light spilled across the plaza, catching on the revolving doors, the steel beams, the polished stone. Men and women in thick coats and leather gloves hurried past him, clutching to-go coffee cups and briefcases. Their badges flashed green at the turnstiles. Security nodded them through, without a second glance. Marcus clutched his lunch, peanut butter sandwich in a plastic grocery bag, a bruised orange, and a small bag of chips Lena loved when he managed to bring them home. His back still ached from the blows from yesterday. His shoulder felt stiff every time he moved his arm too far. But he kept telling himself, over and over, "She's alive. That has to count for something." Maybe someone would say thank you today. Maybe the CFO was just in shock. Maybe it would all be cleared up With HR? Maybe. He took a breath and stepped toward the lobby doors. A security guard moved in front of him, arm outstretched, palm flat. Sir, you can't enter. Marcus blinked. What? It's me, Marcus Reed, night shift janitorial. 24th floor, 31st floor, and... Doesn't matter, the guard said, eyes sliding away like he didn't want to see Marcus' face for too long. I was told you're not permitted in the building. A cold line of fear crawled up Marcus' spine. Not permitted? Why? I didn't. You'll need to contact Human Resources. His throat went sandpaper dry. I don't have their direct line. Just let me up. I'll clock in and... The instruction says do not admit, the guard repeated, voice flat as the marble under their feet. I don't want to get written up over this. Sorry, man. Office workers streamed past them. A woman in a navy pantsuit walked by, not even glancing at Marcus. Two young analysts laughed about a fantasy football league, sidestepping him like he was part of the decor. He suddenly felt like a ghost in front of a building he scrubbed every night. Fine, Marcus muttered, forcing his legs to move. He walked around the side of the tower, toward the service entrance where delivery trucks came and vendors brought supplies. The alley smelled like exhaust, cold metal, and old coffee grounds, familiar in a strange, comforting way. He punched in the doorbell for staff access. A small camera blinked red above his head. The night shift supervisor, a heavy-set man with half-framed reading glasses, opened the door just a crack. Marcus. Yeah, Marcus said. What's going on? They wouldn't let me in at the front. The supervisor didn't meet his eyes. Wait here. Marcus stood in the narrow concrete hallway, staring at the row of beat-up gray staff lockers. His name was still on number 12, written crooked with a fading black marker, M. Reed. He'd been proud of that locker the first week he got it. It made him feel like he actually belonged somewhere. 5 minutes passed. 10. The distant hum of vacuum cleaners echoed from the floors above. Someone somewhere laughed. A phone rang and went quiet. Finally, the supervisor came back holding a sealed white envelope. His face said everything before his mouth moved. What's that? Marcus asked, even though he already knew. HR dropped this off. The man said to give it to you if you showed up. Marcus took it. His fingers shook as he tore it open. The letter was short, efficient, corporate. Employment terminated effective immediately. Reason: inappropriate conduct involving senior personnel. No severance. Final paycheck attached. There was sharp and clean, like a door slamming shut. Inappropriate conduct? Marcus whispered, I saved her life. The supervisor shrugged, eyes heavy with a kind of pity that didn't actually change anything. Look, man, I don't know what really happened in that room. All I got was an email from HR. But this is Ashcroft. They don't like controversy. They're already nervous about social media from what I heard. What did you hear? Marcus asked. The supervisor hesitated. Just that, people are talking. Marcus stared down at the letter. The words blurred for a second. He swallowed them down. So that's it, he said, throat raw. I walk out and I just don't come back. Marcus, the supervisor said quietly, if it was up to me, I'd fight for you. But this is above my pay grade. Above my pay grade. Above my voice. Above my worth. Marcus folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope like he was packing up the last fragments of his dignity. Yeah, he said, I get it. He left through the service door. The winter wind hit him harder this time. He didn't bother to zip his jacket. The cold felt like punishment he somehow deserved even though he knew he didn't. He wandered for blocks before he realized he'd walked past his bus stop twice. The city moved around him. Cars honking. Train rumbles overhead. People arguing about nothing and everything on the sidewalks. You did the right thing, he told himself. You saved her life. You did the right thing. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from a coworker. Yo, bro, check the group chat. His stomach clenched. He opened the app, fingers stiff in the cold. A screenshot filled the screen, taken from what looked like camera footage. The image was grainy, but there he was, bent over Cassandra's body, mouth near hers, hands pressed against her chest. A caption above it read, "Look at this janitor creep all over Miss Ashcroft when she passed out. That doesn't look like CPR to me." Another message. Dude was kissing her like he's in some Netflix movie. That's assault. Laughing emojis. Disgusted emojis. One voice message he didn't have the courage to play. The ground shifted under him. They'd taken the only moment in his life where he'd felt truly heroic and twisted it into something vile. His phone buzzed again. Instagram notifications this time. A random account had tagged him. Someone had ripped the still frame and posted it under a headline. Broke janitor takes advantage of unconscious female CO. Hundreds of comments. Some defending him. Most not. He stopped reading. Turned the screen off. Shoved the phone deep in his pocket, like it burned his hand. When he finally made it back to his neighborhood, the buildings looked smaller than they had yesterday. The brick was the same. The graffiti on the wall outside the corner store hadn't changed, but everything felt darker. He trudged up the narrow stairs to his apartment. The carpet in the hallway was worn thin. Someone's TV blared too loud behind a closed door. A baby cried down the hall. Inside, the air smelled like old coffee and laundry detergent. Lena sat cross-legged on the couch, working on a worksheet with a dull pencil, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth in concentration. "You're home early," she said, looking up with a smile. Then her face pinched. Did something bad happen? He forced his lips into what he hoped was a casual smile. "Just some mix-up at work, baby. Grown-up stuff. I'll figure it out." "Did they yell at you?" Lena asked. "You look like when my teacher says we need to talk." He let out a weak laugh and sat beside her. No yelling, just confusion. She scooted closer and leaned her head on his arm. "If they're mean to you, they're dumb. You're the best." Her faith cut deeper than all the insults he'd seen online. The older woman who watched Lena on late nights, Ms. Carter, shuffled out of the small kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her gray hair was twisted up in a loose bun. She squinted at him over her glasses. "You're back already?" she asked. "What happened?" "I got let go," Marcus said, the words heavy in his mouth. "Let go?" Ms. Carter frowned. Why on earth would they let go of the one person in that building who actually works? He handed her the envelope. She unfolded the letter and read quietly. Her jaw tightened. "Inappropriate conduct," she read aloud, disgust dripping from every syllable. "That's how they say thank you?" Marcus swallowed. "Seems like it." "I watched enough TV to know how this goes, baby," Miss Carter muttered. "They're protecting themselves. Rich folks don't like the idea of needing someone from our side of town to save them. Makes them feel small." He didn't answer. Couldn't. That night, after Lena fell asleep on the mattress with her stuffed unicorn tucked under her chin, Marcus lay awake staring at the ceiling. The streetlights outside cast pale stripes across the cracked plaster. At some point, his phone buzzed again. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe anyway. "Mr. Reed?" a clipped voice said. "This is Human Resources from Ashcroft Global Holdings. Our internal investigation is complete." He sat up in bed, careful not to wake Lena. "So, you know I perform CPR? You talked to the paramedics?" "Your employment has been terminated effective immediately," the woman interrupted. Our review determined that your conduct involving Miss Ashcroft was inappropriate and did not meet company standards. Marcus clenched his jaw. She wasn't breathing. I did what I was trained to do. We will not be pressing charges at this time. The HR voice continued, as if he hadn't spoken. We advise that you do not return to our premises. Your final check will be mailed. At this time, Marcus echoed. So I'm supposed to what? Just disappear? The decision is final, Mr. Reed. Have a good evening. The line went dead. He sat there in the dark with the silent phone pressed to his ear, listening to the echo of the call inside his own head. Inappropriate. Not heroic. Not necessary. Inappropriate. Lena rolled over, murmuring something about pizza in her sleep. He looked at her small face, relaxed and trusting. What am I supposed to tell her? They fired me for doing the right thing? His chest ached. He wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand and whispered into the quiet room, God, if you're listening at all, what am I supposed to do now? Outside, somewhere in the alley, a car alarm chirped once and went silent. A train rumbled in the distance. The world moved on. Across the city, on the top floor of a glass high-rise overlooking the Chicago River, Cassandra Ashcroft jolted awake in her darkened penthouse, chest heaving. The nightmare was back. The same suffocating darkness, the same weight on her chest, the same terrifying feeling of being trapped inside her own body while consciousness slipped away. And then, every single time, the same voice. Come on, you're not dying on me. Breathe. Come back. A man's voice. Strained, shaking, desperate. Familiar now in a way that made her stomach twist. She sat up, shoving back the silk duvet, sweat dampening the collar of her t-shirt. Her heart, monitored on the nightstand, beeped steadily. The digital clock read 3:17 a.m. The doctors had told her something very simple and very cold. Sudden cardiac arrest, minutes from death, saved by CPR before paramedics arrived. Survival chances, they said, were under 10% without immediate intervention. Someone had been her 10%. Someone who had pressed his hands into her chest. Someone who had kept air moving through her lungs. Someone who had kept her alive long enough for machines to take over. And yet nobody would tell her who. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed and stood, the floor cool under her bare feet. The Chicago skyline sparkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Down below, the river cut through the sleeping city like a strip of dark glass. She walked into the kitchen. The coffee maker started automatically at 3:20 a.m. every morning. Her assistant had scheduled it that way, assuming she'd be working early again like always. But this morning, Cassandra didn't feel like the usual brilliant machine of efficiency she was supposed to be. She felt hunted by a memory she didn't own. Her phone lit up with overnight emails, media inquiries, investor updates, a proposed interview with a financial network about her miraculous recovery. Nothing about the one person who actually made that recovery possible. She opened the company's internal portal and scanned the incident reports. Cardiac event during quarterly board meeting. Emergency response activated. Security protocols followed. No names. No details. She ground her teeth. She called the head of security. Mark, she said when he picked up, voice still rough with sleep. I want the security footage from the boardroom the morning I went down. There was a pause. HR has already reviewed that tape, Ms. Ashcroft. Legal has a copy. I didn't ask who reviewed it. She cut him off, steel sliding into her tone. I'm asking where it is. I want it sent to my email. Now. Yes, ma'am. She hung up and stared out the window for a long moment, the glass reflecting her pale face and tired eyes. Who are you? She thought, remembering the voice in the darkness. Why won't they tell me your name? 20 minutes later, her phone chimed. New email. Attachments. 1. She opened the file. The boardroom appeared on screen from a high corner angle. There she was, standing tall at the head of the table, gesturing at the wall monitor. She watched herself freeze mid-sentence. A surreal experience, seeing the exact moment her heart betrayed her frame. Her hand flew to her chest. She staggered, collapsed. The room exploded into movement. People jumped to their feet, but none bent down. No one checked her pulse. No one touched her. Then the door at the far end flew open. A man in a gray janitor's uniform rushed in with a mop bucket. He stopped for a split second, eyes widening. Then he dropped everything and ran to her. Cassandra leaned closer to the screen. He knelt, checked her neck, tilted her head, pressed his lips to hers. Compressions, breaths, compressions. The scene she couldn't remember, but her body obviously could. All the while, others circled them like vultures afraid to touch the corpse. Then she saw Halston, Richard, the CFO, grab the janitor's shoulder and yank him away, rage burning in his eyes. The janitor fought to get back to her. Security appeared. They dragged him toward the door like he was some kind of criminal. Cassandra hit pause. Her hand shook. She watched that moment again and again and again. He saved me, she thought, and they treated him like trash. Her jaw clenched. She called security back. Mark. She said, every word razor sharp now. The janitor in that footage. I want his name, his file, his address. And I want to know exactly what HR did to him. You have 1 hour. Yes, Ms. Ashcroft. She ended the call and stared at the frozen frame on her phone. The man's face halfway between fear and determination, eyes glistening with effort. She whispered to the silent kitchen, I'm not letting them erase you. If you're following this story and you want to see exactly how far this billionaire will go to fix what her own company destroyed, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series. What happens next will decide whether Marcus gets justice or gets buried for good. Marcus woke up to the sound of someone banging on his apartment door. It wasn't a gentle kind of knock. This one rattled the frame, shook the cheap hinges, made the thin walls tremble. Instinct jolted him upright. His first thought was Lena. His second was, they found me. He staggered to the door, rubbing sleep from his eyes. When he opened it, he didn't find police officers or landlords or angry neighbors. He found a cluster of teenagers pointing their phones at him. There he is, a girl shouted. The janitor predator guy. Marcus froze. Another teen, maybe 16, zoomed in on his face. Yo, bro, why are you kissing unconscious billionaires at work? That's wild. I wasn't, Marcus began, heart pounding. Liar, someone yelled. We saw the video, dude. That's assault. Someone threw something. A crumpled soda can that bounced off his chest. Marcus' hand shook. Back up, he said. Please. A boy in a puffy jacket stepped forward. Why'd you do it, huh? Can't get girls her own age. I saved her, he said quietly. She wasn't breathing. The teens laughed like he told the funniest joke in the world. Someone pushed him, just enough to make him stumble backward. Before things could get worse, a door down the hallway swung open. Miss Carter, in her silk robe and slippers, stormed out like a grandmother possessed. H-E-Y, she barked. Every one of you get your behinds out of this building before I call every daddy and mama in this neighborhood. The teen scrambled. Miss Carter snatched one phone mid-recording and smacked the boy upside the head with her slipper before he sprinted down the stairs. She shut the door, then turned to Marcus, breathing hard. Baby, you all right? Marcus leaned against the wall, fighting to breathe. Why are people doing this? Because people love a lie more than the truth, she said softly, especially when it's about a poor man and a powerful woman. He slid down the wall and sat on the floor, burying his face in his hands. Ms. Carter crouched beside him. You saved that woman's life. Don't you let these fools rewrite what you did. But Marcus didn't answer, because no matter how many times someone told him he did the right thing, it didn't feel like it anymore. Not when the world decided he was a monster. Not when he lost his job. Not when teens hunted him for content. Not when rent was due in 6 days and he had exactly $214 in his checking account. Not when Lena needed him to be strong. He stayed there for a moment, trying to breathe past the storm in his chest. And then, somewhere across Chicago, Cassandra Ashcroft was doing something no one expected. She was going to find him. The sleek black Lincoln Navigator turned into South Side Chicago just after noon. Cassandra sat in the back, hair pulled into a tight bun, coat draped over her shoulders, a coffee she hadn't touched sitting in the cup holder. Her assistant, Dana, sat beside her, glancing nervously at the environment outside the tinted windows. This neighborhood is not safe for you, Miss Ashcroft, Dana murmured. Are you sure? I'm not canceling, Cassandra said, voice sharp. If legal and HR won't tell me where he lives, then I'll find him myself. Dana swallowed. And what exactly do you plan to say to him? Cassandra didn't answer, not because she didn't know, but because her emotions were too tangled to explain. There was guilt and anger and something else she couldn't quite name. The footage replayed in her mind over and over. The way he fought security, the fear in his eyes, the determination, and most of all, the way he looked at her like her life mattered. The driver slowed. We're here. Cassandra stepped out of the SUV and immediately felt dozens of eyes on her. People sitting on stoops, kids riding bikes, a group of older men playing dominoes under a street awning. Everyone stared at the unfamiliar intrusion of wealth. She scanned the building number, 312 Harper Avenue. Marcus' address from his employee file. She walked inside. The stairwell smelled like boiled cabbage and laundry detergent. The lights flickered. Paint chipped off the corners of every step. Her heart hammered. She found apartment 302 and raised her fist a knock. She froze. Voices came from inside. One of them was a little girl. She lowered her hand and stepped back. Something about hearing a child's voice softened her. But before she could gather herself, the apartment door opened. Marcus stepped out holding a trash bag. He stopped dead. He blinked once, twice. His fingers loosened. The trash bag slipped from his hand and hit the floor. Cassandra breathed his name, quietly, without meaning to. Marcus Reed. Marcus stared at her like she was a hallucination. He looked different up close, tired, unshaven, bruises blooming purple across his shoulder and collarbone beneath his T-shirt. "W.I., are you here?" he whispered. "I came to thank you," she said softly, "and to tell you that what they did to you is unacceptable." His jaw tightened. "Took you long enough." Her chest tightened. She deserved that. "I didn't know," she said. "No one told me. They hid everything. That video, the firing, the harassment. You saw the rumors?" he asked. She nodded. "I saw everything, including the footage." He looked away, ashamed. "Don't look away from me," she said gently. "You saved my life. You didn't do anything wrong." His eyes glistened, but he didn't let the tears fall. "Tell that to your company," he said bitterly. "I will," Cassandra said. "In fact, I already started. HR, legal, communications, they're all in trouble. And by tomorrow morning, the entire board will be sitting in front of me answering questions they've been trying to avoid." He laughed once, humorless. "Why?" "Because it makes your company look bad." "No," she said quietly. "Because they destroyed a man who deserved better." Something flickered in his eyes, something close to disbelief. Then a small voice came from inside. "Daddy?" Who are you talking to? A little girl peeked around the doorway, brown eyes, messy puffs, wearing pajamas with unicorns on them. Cassandra's breath caught. This was the reason Marcus fought so hard. This was the anchor in his universe. The girl looked at Cassandra with shy curiosity. Hi. Cassandra smiled gently. Hi, sweetheart. Lena looked up at her father. Is she famous? Marcus let out a breath. Something like that. Cassandra felt warmth she didn't expect. Your daughter is adorable. Yeah, Marcus murmured. She's everything. An awkward silence settled. Then Cassandra drew in a breath. Marcus, I want to help you. I don't need your charity, he said quietly. This isn't charity, she said. It's responsibility. He looked up sharply. I owe you my life, she continued. And I owe your daughter hers. So yes, I'm helping you. And I'm not leaving until I do. Marcus swallowed but said nothing. Cassandra took a step closer. A careful step. One that asked permission without saying the words. Can we talk somewhere private? She asked. Miss Carter's inside, Marcus said. She can watch Lena for a bit. He didn't wait for Cassandra to respond. He turned and walked toward the stairwell. Cassandra followed him outside into cold. They stopped near the rusted metal railing overlooking the street. She faced him fully. I want you back at the company, she said. Not as a janitor. Not after what they did. I want you reinstated with full apology, public correction, a raise, and HR on their knees if that's what it takes. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. They won't do that. Oh, they will, Cassandra said. Because if they don't, they'll be out of job before noon. He let out a breath that shook. But even that isn't enough, she added. What do you mean? She stepped closer, her voice lowering. You didn't just save my life, Marcus. You gave me something I can never repay. He shook his head. I didn't do anything anyone else wouldn't have done. That's the point, she whispered. No one else did. A cold breeze swept between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Cassandra said something that changed everything. I want you to come with me tomorrow. I want you in the boardroom when I confront them. I want you to hear their excuses. I want you to see them squirm. I want you to get the justice they tried to bury. Marcus stared at her, at the determination in her eyes, at the softness beneath her strength. Why me? He whispered. She held his gaze. Because they tried to silence you, and I don't want you ever silenced again. His chest tightened. And, she added after a moment, voice softer now, because I trust you. He looked away, overwhelmed. She stepped closer. Marcus. He forced himself to meet her eyes. Tomorrow, she said. Be ready at 9. She turned to leave, then paused. Take care of your daughter, she said gently. You've already proven you know how to protect the people who matter. And then she walked away. Marcus stood there long after her SUV pulled off, long after the street went quiet again, long after his breath steadied, because for the first time since his life fell apart, someone powerful had decided he mattered, and tomorrow, the world that tried to destroy him would finally have to face him. If you made it here, signify in the comment section so I can release the final part of this story. If you think this was intense, oh, sweetheart, you haven't seen anything yet. Subscribe now, because the next chapter will leave your heart trembling.